Hey everybody, welcome back to Mandate Buddy Mondays. I'm your host Rob. Last episode, we discussed a few different topics: personal conveyance, AOBRD versus ELD, malfunction extensions, what is the mandate, and are you exempt from the mandate? Last episode, although we did discuss some topics in great detail, we did forget a few topics that I really want to touch on during this episode of Mandate Buddy Mondays, and that is Waystation bypass and macros. So macros are things like your driver completing his proof of delivery, bill of lading. So when you get a job from the broker and they send you a bill of lading, getting that to your driver, you can use macros to do that. And fuel purchases. So obviously when you have your quarterly or annual fuel tax that you have to submit to the government, you need to keep track of your fuel purchases and also your state miles, right? So you can use macros to record the number of gallons and the cost of the fuel and things like that, and we'll touch on that in greater detail here in a bit. So we also had a comment from a viewer, and they asked about vehicle inspection reporting. So is there a way to complete vehicle inspection reports for days that have already passed? So for example, the gentleman asked, when a driver forgets to complete his vehicle inspection report from a previous day, can you go back and complete it for him? And the simple answer to that question is no. You cannot do that. So if a driver misses or forgets to do his pre-trip or forgets to do his post-trip, unfortunately that's going to be recorded as a missed vehicle inspection report. So here, I'm going to drag this onto my screen here. Here is a list of all of the VIRs completed with open defects, VIRs closed defects. So defects, when a driver completes his VIR and he goes around the truck, and there's a pop tire, right, or leaking oil, right. He can record that and mark it as a defect. Right, when the truck gets back to the yard, the mechanic then could log into our system. So you could have a separate user account for the mechanic. The mechanic could log into our system and then look at that defect, do the work to the truck that was necessary, and record what he did for that defect and close the defect. Then the driver would be able to begin driving the truck again, right? Obviously, if the defect is not that severe, the driver does not have to stop driving. But you do have to close out the defect. So when there is an open defect, you have to make sure to close that defect before your driver can do another vehicle inspection report. And that is one thing I want to note. But here, I'm selecting my filters, right? So what do I want to see in my results? And as you see here, I have missing selected here. So this is going to show me all of my missed vehicle inspection reports. So drivers that have missed a VIR. So here you can see vehicle ID demo TRK. Has missed quite a few vehicle inspection reports, and I think this is a demo unit that we have laying around the office. But so here you can see it's a missed VIR, right? And I'm not able to edit it or go back and complete it. Now what I can do is show you guys a VIR with an open defect. So this is a driver. Okay, so let's see. So a VIR received, and the defects looks like they were corrected, or not yet. So the VIR was received. Here are the defects. So air compressor, hoses, battery, electricals, wires, fuel and oil, horn, right? So when you do receive one of these VIRs with a defect, your mechanic could come in and enter in some notes of what they did to resolve that defect, right? Then press save, and at that point the defect would be corrected and your driver would be able to do another vehicle inspection report, either a pre-trip or a post-trip or a mid-trip. So the answer to one of our viewers' questions is, so unfortunately, if a driver misses his vehicle inspection report, either his pre-trip, his mid-trip, or his post-trip, you cannot go back and complete a VIR that has been missed, right? So the driver would just need to go throughout his day and continue to do his pre and post-trip VIRs. If there is a VIR, like I mentioned before, if there is a VIR with a defect, the mechanic or whoever fixed that defect needs to go into our system and put a notation or a comment of what they did to resolve that defect. And then at that point, the defect would be closed and the driver would be able to do another vehicle inspection report. Okay, so Waystation bypass, so what is it? So obviously, if you're a long-haul trucker or a trucker really in general, you know about waystations. So a lot of times, even though you might not get inspected, you still need to pull into that scale, right? And that takes time, right? Time that you could have spent moving or progressing your trip from point A to point B. And they say that the estimated waystation cost, or the operating cost that it takes to pull into that waystation each and every time you have to, is $9.30 each stop per truck. And the average time spent is about 5 to 10 minutes per truck, right? And that's considering that you don't get selected for an inspection, right? Omnitrax has partnered together with DriveWise Pre-Clear to offer Waystation bypass on their telematics devices like the IVG and the XRS mobile solution. WSB allows drivers with good safety scores to be granted bypasses at the waystations. This allows drivers to continue on their trip and keep making money. Remember, when a truck is not moving, it's not making money, right? So every time you pull into one of these waystations, you're losing cash, right? You want to keep driving, keep moving. And that's what Waystation bypass is going to allow you to do, right? You don't want to look at Waystation bypass as, oh, this is another expense, right? Man, this is another X amount of dollars out of my pocket each month. You need to look at it in a way that, okay, if I am able to bypass X amount of waystations, right? If I've earned, you earned your safety score, right? By following the rules, right? Paying attention to the guidelines that the FMCSA has put together for what equals to be a good driver, right? Paying attention to those guidelines and following them is what you've done, right? So you should be rewarded for that behavior, right? And that's what Waystation bypass does. So if you have a good safety score, you will be granted bypasses. So no more waiting at a scale, right? It's going to give you a notification. So either 1 mile or 2 miles out on your ELD device, it's going to give you a easy to read, nice notification that's going to say, hey, you've been granted a bypass, so you don't have to pull into this scale, right? And you probably wouldn't have gotten inspected anyways, right? You probably would have pulled into the scale and then been on your way, right? But the point is that with a good safety score, you're going to get a bypass, and you don't even have the opportunity to maybe get inspected. You're just going to keep on driving, right? And that's going to save. In the end, it's actually going to add value. It's going to add money into your pocket, right? Because each stop, they're estimating about $9.30 of operating costs that you're losing each time you stop at a waystation. That's what they're estimating, right? So And how many way stations do people usually stop at, right? I've heard different numbers. Some people say 10 a month. Some people say 25 a month, right? I guess it depends the geographic territory that you're driving. But if it's just 10 stops, right? If it's just 10 way stations that you're able to bypass in a month, right? Or let's say 5. So that's $9.30, right? Times 5 way stations, right? So that's $46.50 of operating cost that you would have lost. So every time you pull into those way stations, right, it's costing you $9.30. So 5 way stations would cost you $46.50, right, in lost operating cost, right? So if you're able to bypass just 5 way stations a month, and if you have a good safety score, you're going to be able to do this, right? If you can bypass just 5 a month, right? And it's going to add $46.50 of value back to your bottom line, right? And now this application or this service, roughly the monthly fee is roughly about $15 per truck per month, right? So if I subtract 15 from that, right, that's $31.50 of added value, right, to your bottom line. So that puts you in the green, right? $30. So it was an expense, right? So Waystation bypass, it costs roughly, like I said, $15 a month. So you can either say, okay, what's 15 times 12, right? So 15 times 12. You can say, oh man, that's another $180 expense annually. I don't want to do that, right? That doesn't make sense. Why would I spend another $180 annually? But taking into account, right, the operating cost, the money that you're losing when you're not moving, right? Remember, when the truck's not moving, you're not making money. Okay, so remember that, right? So all of the money that you're losing every time you pull into those way stations, right? You're losing more than $180 a year. You are losing more than $180 a year, okay? And yeah, sure, there might be somebody who only passes 1 way station a year, okay? This is not for you. This is for people that are passing 10, 15, 20, 25 way stations a month. This is for you, okay? If you get way station bypass and you have a good safety score, all right? This is going to make you money, okay? It's not an expense. Okay? This is going to add value to your business and improve your bottom line. I can assure you that. All right, macros. So macros allow the admin or dispatcher to send customizable forms. So you could create a proof of delivery form. It could be a bill of lading. It could be a fuel purchase. So you can send macros to the driver, right? And the driver can input information into those macros and send them back to the admin or dispatcher, who then can print them out, export them, file them away, email them to a broker or to a third-party company very easily. So here on my screen, you can see a list of macros. So OmniTrax does a great job of giving their customers pre-filled templates, so templates that have already been created, right? So here you can see these are the return macros. So these are macros that are available on the ELD, right? So the driver would have access to them, and he could select anyone he wanted, fill in some information, do what he needed to do, and then send it back to the admin or dispatcher. So here you can see, let me see, here's a fuel purchase macro. So here is a nice template that's already created, and it's showing, okay, how many gallons did you fuel the truck up with, right? What was the location? And you can add in more fields, right? So Let me add in a field here. So I'm going to insert a line. Right, and then we'll add something to this. So we'll call it cost. Cost right there. Okay. And the driver could enter in the cost there. So gallons purchased, how many gallons was it, right? What was the location that you fueled up? And what was the cost of that fuel? You can also add in autofill fields. So autofill, let's see. Arrival, GPS position. So when the driver gets to the gas station, right, and then he clicks on his device, he'll be able to select this fuel purchase macro. And if you input this field called autofill arrival GPS, it's gonna autofill that data in. So as soon as he gets to the gas station, it's going to autofill the exact location that the driver's at without the driver having to do anything or input or type anything on the screen. Also, you could see his odometer reading. So as soon as he opened that let's go ahead and add that in. Let's insert a line. Okay, let's add in autofill odometer. So as soon as the driver opened up that form, he gets to the gas station, pulls up this macro, it's going to autofill that data in, the odometer reading, the exact reading right off the ECM, so the engine control module, the engine computer. Timestamp. So I can add in an autofill timestamp. So what this will allow me to do is as soon as the driver gets to that location, it's going to give you an exact time that the driver got there. So he opens up that form, enters in the gallons, enters in the cost. It autofills the GPS location. It's going to autofill the odometer reading, and it's going to autofill the exact timestamp, so the exact time that the driver got there. And then he presses send, right, and it's going to arrive in your inbox. So right in the admin or dispatcher's inbox, they can click, look at it, export it, file it away, give it to the accountant to do IFTA, whatever you need to do, you can go ahead and do that. So let me go back to macros. I'm going to show you the proof of delivery macro. So the POD, let me see. I actually don't see a proof of delivery template, but you know what? Let me show you real quick how you would create one. So you can press create return macro, and then you have your own template to start working with, right? So you can insert a couple lines here, and then you can put some information, right? So arrived, let me see. So the address, you're probably going to want to know the address that the driver dropped the load off, right? If you need to give a proof of delivery form back to your broker to get paid for the job, right? You're obviously going to know the address that they dropped the goods at. So you would probably want address in here. And I'm not an expert, okay? I don't run a trucking company or own a trucking company, but I talk to a lot of people that do own and run trucking companies, so I guess my point is I don't know exactly what's on this form, but it seems pretty intuitive. So let me try. Okay, so address. You could cut that, Zach. Okay. Okay, so this is setting the length, so the character length. How many characters do you want to allow the driver to type in when he's entering the address? So let's just say 10 characters. Okay, so he could enter in the address there, right? Let's see. Delivery on time, yes or no? Let's add that field. It's probably a good field. What driver ID? So what driver was it? So let's say 5 characters for the driver ID. Is it driver 10? Is it driver 5? What's the driver's name, right? Let's go ahead and add that. Zip code. Let's add that. So the point is that you could create a proof of delivery form that's tailored for the broker or whatever company that you're working together with, right? Or whoever you need to deliver that proof of delivery form to. I'm sure they maybe have some requirements of exactly what they want to see on that form, right? And Omnitrax has the flexibility to allow you to create a macro that works for you. And that concludes today's episode of Mandate Buddy Mondays. I'm your host, Rob. Please tune in to next episode every Monday at 1 p.m. Central. Thanks.